So President Trump reportedly says that the situation in Iran is, quote, in flux, as the United States has sent what the president called a big armada to the region.
The strongest army in the world can take a hit that it may never recover from.
Right now, 180 meters beneath the northern Arabian Sea, something is in the water. Not one thing, four. Four torpedo tracks, active acoustic seekers spinning, 650-pound warheads moving at 55 knots through cold black water toward the hull of a United States aircraft carrier. Four Iranian crewed submarines, 2 Kilo class, 2 Fateh class, have just fired everything they have. The deluge is already running. The clock is already counting. What the Iranian commanders don't know is that every single one of those torpedoes was detected the moment it left its tube. What Moscow doesn't know is that by the time this engagement ends, American intelligence will have proof that changes Russia's strategic position overnight. This is the story of the most dangerous 9 nautical miles in the modern era and the diplomatic tsunami that followed. The Arabian Sea has a memory. For weeks before this scenario begins, the USS Abraham Lincoln's Carrier Strike Group has been building that memory one sonobuoy at a time. Every morning since deployment, P-8A Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft from Patrol Squadron VP-45 have departed Al Udeid Air Base on 8-hour ASW barrier patrols, dropping AN/SSQ-53 DIFAR directional sonobuoys and AN/SSQ-62 DICAS active coherent sonobuoys in precisely calculated fields that cover every deepwater approach lane to the carrier's operating area. The buoys sink to programmed depths, some at 100 feet, some at 400, some at 800, and they listen. Every sound source in the water column, cataloged, classified, and transmitted in real time to the strike group's integrated ASW network. It is not glamorous work. It is patient, methodical, relentless work. And it builds something no enemy can easily counter: a living, continuously updated acoustic map of the ocean that the carrier is traveling through. 3 Virginia-class nuclear-powered attack submarines operate in the strike group's extended screen, positioned at intervals that cover the primary approach vectors. They are running quiet. Battery-powered propulsion, minimum active emissions, passive sonar absorbing every vibration the water carries. A Virginia-class submarine at combat depth is so acoustically clean that even Allied navies struggle to track one in exercises. The ocean knows they are there. The Iranian submarines do not. 4,800 sailors aboard the Lincoln wake up, eat, work, and sleep without knowing that the water beneath them is already a battlefield being contested by forces they cannot see. That is about to change at 03:12 hours. The Iranian underwater operation has been months in planning, and it has a detail that distinguishes it from every previous scenario in this series. It has Russian fingerprints on it. Not on the weapons, not on the submarines, on the men inside them. Specifically, embedded aboard each of the 2 Kilo-class submarines is a pair of Russian naval officers, drawn from the Black Sea Fleet's submarine command, classified as technical advisors, in an arrangement brokered through back channels that Tehran paid for in oil concessions and weapons contracts. Their role is precise: acoustic classification support, fire control solution verification, and real-time tactical guidance during the engagement. The logic is sound from Tehran's perspective. Iran's Kilo-class crews are competent but limited in experience. The Kilo-class submarines, the 3 Terek-class boats acquired from Russia in the 1990s, are formidable platforms, but operating them at the edge of their capability in a contested ASW environment against a U.S. carrier strike group requires a depth of expertise that Iran's submarine force has never needed to develop. The Russian advisors fill that gap. They know the Kilo's acoustic signature management procedures. They know the optimal depth and speed profiles for minimizing detectability. They know how to get a valid fire control solution on a large surface target without using active sonar. In theory, with Russian expertise guiding Iranian hands on the controls, these 4 submarines become something genuinely dangerous. The plan is a coordinated 4-axis attack: 2 Kilo-class from the northwest and northeast, 2 Fateh-class from the south and out east. The geometry is designed to force the carrier's ASW assets to defend in 4 directions simultaneously, overwhelming their response capacity. 12 torpedoes total. The Iranian strategic calculation. If even 3 find the Lincoln's hull, the message is sent. American carriers are not untouchable. The Gulf is Iranian water. The cost of presence is now priced in steel. There is one thing neither the Iranian planners nor their Russian advisors have fully modeled: the integrated nature of what they are swimming into. What they got catastrophically wrong is the assumption that their approach was undetected. The Russian advisors knew the theory of American ASW sonobuoy barriers. What they hadn't fully accounted for was the specific operational density of the barrier in this scenario. Not one P-8A's worth of sonobuoys, but 8 consecutive days of VP-45 missions, laying overlapping fields in a 200 nautical mile defensive perimeter. The acoustic coverage is not a fence. It is a net woven so finely that even the admirably quiet Kilo class, running its noise reduction protocol and creeping at 4 knots, generates a detectable signature in the lowest frequency bands. The first acoustic anomaly was flagged 39 hours before the attack. Not as a definitive contact, as a probability ghost, a faint repeating pattern that the VP-45 acoustic intelligence analysts at the Tactical Support Center aboard the Lincoln classified as possible diesel submarine, bearing 312 degrees, confidence level 40%. By hour 22, additional corroborating data from 2 separate sonobuoy fields raised that confidence to 74%. By hour 6 before the attack, all 4 submarine contacts were classified as confirmed hostile submarine, probable Kilo or Fateh class, tactical approach profile. The Virginia-class submarines were repositioned to intercept geometry at hour 4. They had their firing solutions by hour 2. They were waiting. The storm was never going to reach the Lincoln. It was going to be redirected. Every torpedo those 4 submarines fired was going into a battle they were already losing before they turned their attack keys. 03-12-07. The lead Kilo-class submarine, running at 180 meters depth, bearing 314 degrees from the Lincoln at 11 nautical miles, opens its forward torpedo tubes. 3 533mm torpedoes, Iranian-manufactured USET-95 heavyweights, leave the tubes in a 6-second spread. The sound signature of the launch is detected by the nearest Virginia-class submarine's TB-29 towed array passive sonar before the torpedoes have traveled 200 meters. Torpedo in the water, bearing 314, multiple tracks. The words move through the integrated ASW network at the speed of encrypted data. From the Virginia-class to the Lincoln's Combat Information Center, to every escort destroyer simultaneously. Elapsed time, 1.8 seconds, 03-12-31. The second Kilo class fires from the northeast, 3 more torpedoes. Then the first Fateh class from the south, 4 533mm tubes, 2 weapons. Then the second Fateh, 2 more. 12 torpedoes in the water across a 38-second window. Active seekers spinning up, all bearing toward the carrier group. You need to understand what 12 torpedo tracks look like on an integrated ASW display. It is not a simple picture. It is an avalanche of threat vectors, each one demanding a response decision in seconds, each one representing 650 pounds of shaped charge explosive, moving at 55 knots through water that transmits force far more efficiently than air. This is what the Iranian planners designed the 4-axis attack to create, an avalanche that crashes through any coherent defensive response. Except, the defensive response was already coherent before the first torpedo left its tube. 03-12-55. The first Virginia-class submarine fires. 2 Mk-48 ADCAP torpedoes, wire-guided, programmed for the lead Kilo's acoustic signature, which has been cataloged for 39 hours. The Mk-48 ADCAP runs at 55 knots, depth capable to 2,500 feet, with a shaped charge warhead designed to deliver a keel-breaking hydrodynamic pulse on near-miss or direct penetration on contact. The lead Kilo's crew has 3 minutes and 41 seconds before impact. It is unlikely they know the torpedo is running. 03-13-12. The second Virginia class fires on the northeast Kilo. Same solution geometry, same confidence level, same outcome mathematics. 03-13-44. The third Virginia class, positioned south, fires on both Fateh class contacts. The Fateh class is a smaller, shallower diving vessel, 600-ton displacement, maximum depth around 200 meters, significantly more vulnerable to torpedo blast pressure than the Kilo. 2 Mk-48s, split targeting. Now the race. 12 Iranian torpedoes running toward the carrier group. 6 American Mk-48s running toward 4 Iranian submarines. The P-8A overhead has rolled its entire remaining sonobuoy payload into the torpedo approach corridors. Active DICASS buoys pinging at maximum power, flooding the water with acoustic energy that drowns the torpedo's own seekers in noise, degrading their ability to discriminate between the carrier's hull return and the countermeasures deployed around her. 031628. The lead Kilo detonates. The Mk-48 achieves a keel proximity detonation at 170 meters depth. The hydrodynamic pulse is catastrophic at that depth. External water pressure amplifies the shock wave against the hull at 2.5 times surface equivalent force. The submarine's pressure hull fails at the sail and midsection simultaneously. It does not surface. It does not send a distress signal. It descends. 031641. The Northeast Kilo takes its Mk-48 hit amidships. Same result. 2 Russian naval advisors and the Kilo's entire crew are gone in the cold black water of the Arabian Sea in under 15 seconds of torpedo runs. 031719 and 031733. The 2 Fateh-class submarines are eliminated by the 3rd Virginia-class submarine's weapons. Smaller hulls mean faster flooding. The Fateh-class boats disappear from the integrated ASW display as active acoustic sources within seconds of impact. But the Iranian torpedoes are still running. 031802. 3 of the 12 Iranian USET-95 torpedoes have been successfully deflected by AN/SLQ-25 Nixie torpedo countermeasure decoys deployed from the escort destroyers, towed acoustic emitters that mimic a larger ship's propeller signature and seduce the torpedo's passive seeker away from the real hull. 5 more have entered the sonobuoy noise field and lost their active lock. They run past the carrier group on bearing, fuel exhausted. 3 more are engaged by the destroyer's hard-kill torpedo defense systems. 1 remaining torpedo, the last, achieves a valid lock on the destroy, USS Frank E. Peterson Jr., and closes to 400 meters before the Peterson's helmsman executes a radical emergency turn at flank speed, while the Nixie decoy draws the seeker. The torpedo detonates in the decoy's acoustic shadow at 340 meters off the Peterson's stern. The shockwave shakes the ship. Monitors rattle. 2 sailors stumble. No hull breach, no casualties. The Peterson is operational. Final tally: 12 Iranian torpedoes fired from 4 submarines. 0 impacts on any U.S. vessel. 4 Iranian submarines destroyed. 0 American ships lost. 0 American casualties. The entire underwater offensive, designed by Iranian planners and refined by Russian tactical expertise, ends without a single drop of American blood. Now comes the shock that Moscow never prepared for. While the underwater battle was being decided in real time, the NSA's SIGINT collection network was doing something else entirely. The encrypted voice communications between the Russian advisors aboard the 2 Kilo-class submarines and a relay node positioned on a Russian-flagged vessel operating in international waters 140 nautical miles away were not unbreakable. They were broken, partially and imperfectly, but enough. Russian language, naval technical terminology, tactical fire control language. 2 distinct voice prints, both subsequently matched to serving officers of the Russian Navy's Black Sea Fleet Submarine Command by voice biometric analysis. Within 6 hours of the engagement, the NSA package, voice intercepts, acoustic signatures of the advisor's communications equipment aboard the Kilos, satellite imagery of the Russian relay vessel, was in the hands of the National Security Council. Within 14 hours, a classified diplomatic communique was delivered to the Russian ambassador in Washington with a single question attached. Explain the presence of active-duty Russian Navy submarine officers providing tactical fire control guidance during a torpedo attack on a United States carrier strike group. Moscow's response options were 3. Deny the intercepts entirely, untenable, because the U.S. made clear the evidence would be presented at the UN Security Council in open session if no response was forthcoming within 48 hours. acknowledge the advisors and claim they were acting independently. Impossible to sustain, because the relay vessel's communications traced directly to a Black Sea Fleet Command F frequency, or issue a formal disavowal. Recall all military personnel from Iranian platforms immediately, and privately commit to ending all submarine-related advisory support to Iran's naval forces. Moscow chose the third option. It had no other viable path. Within 72 hours of the engagement, all Russian military advisors embedded with Iranian naval forces were quietly withdrawn. The relay vessel left its position and did not return. Russian state media ran no story about any of this. There was no public statement. But the diplomatic back-channel record showed something unprecedented. Russia had been definitively caught directing combat operations against U.S. forces and had retreated, silently, completely, and immediately, rather than face the exposure. That retreat was not defeat for Moscow in a military sense. Their submarines didn't fight. But it was something more lasting. A documented moment where the limits of Russian adventurism were tested against American intelligence capability and found to be knowable, provable, and actionable. The shock in Moscow was not the battle. It was the realization that the Americans had been listening to their advisors' conversations from inside an Iranian submarine at combat depth. The final accounting is brief and total. 4 submarines entered the Arabian Sea to execute a coordinated torpedo attack on a United States carrier group. All 4 were destroyed before their torpedoes reached any target. 12 torpedoes were fired. 0 achieved hull contact. The carrier strike group lost no ships and suffered 0 fatalities. The 4 submarines, and the Russian officers advising their fire control teams, were eliminated in a 21-minute engagement window from first torpedo detection to last confirmed kill. The integrated ASW network that achieved this outcome was not a single weapon or a single platform. It was the sum of 39 hours of P-8A sonobuoy work, 3 Virginia-class submarines pre-positioned on intercept geometry, destroyer-deployed Nixie countermeasures, and an encrypted data network that shared every acoustic contact in real time across every platform in the strike group. No single element of that network could have defeated the attack alone. Together, they turned the underwater avalanche into empty water. And in the 72 hours after the engagement, American SIGINT capability achieved something no weapon could. It presented Moscow with a documented record of its own involvement and forced a retreat that submarine torpedoes could never have compelled. The lesson from 180 meters beneath the Arabian Sea is not about firepower. It is about what happens when one side understands the battle space completely and the other side is operating on assumptions. Iran's submarine force and its Russian advisors understood the Lincoln's surface defenses with reasonable accuracy. What they catastrophically failed to account for was the depth and duration of the acoustic surveillance barrier that had been built around her for 5.5 weeks. They were not sailing into a defended carrier. They were sailing into a cataloged environment where their every acoustic signature had been logged, classified, and pre-assigned to an American interceptor. And Russia, the experienced submarine power, the nation whose naval doctrine was built on undersea deterrence, allowed its officers to communicate on tactical frequencies from inside a combat submarine using equipment that American collection assets were already recovering. That is not a technology failure. That is a doctrine failure born from the assumption that the Americans couldn't be listening that specifically, at that depth, in real time. They were. They always had been. Which decision in this entire sequence do you think mattered most? The 39-hour sonobuoy barrier that built the acoustic map? The Virginia-class pre-positioning at intercept geometry? The Nixie deployment timing? Or the decision to present Moscow with the SIGINT evidence rather than simply accepting the military victory? Drop your analysis in the comments below. I genuinely want your read on where the real turning point was. And subscribe for more deep dive scenarios that go below the surface of modern military power. Because in this case, that phrase is entirely literal.